Singapore and welcome to Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. We've got the latest news and reports. Luto casts voting for provisions applied to Section 436B of Constitutional Amendment. The world under attack by coronavirus outbreak and China's measures against imported cases. Myanmar Go launches its football news application. And the last report on the Yangon Stock Exchange to increase daily matching times to 7. All of that on this edition of Myanmar Today, but for now, let's take a look at what's happening in local news. State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi's televised message to the public on prevention, control and treatment measures against COVID-19 was broadcast on Monday. She said in her message, the WHO has declared the new coronavirus disease a pandemic. They further said that the viral disease can be contained systematically. The Ministry of Health and Sports is taking the leading role to contain and prevent the outbreak and spread of the deadly infectious virus in Myanmar and has been issuing health awareness information and guidelines to the people. Travelers from the regions where the outbreak and spread of the COVID-19 are mostly seen are also restricted from entering Myanmar for the good of our people in a real-time manner. After the announcement of WHO, a central committee formed on 30th of January was elevated to a national level body last Friday for making effective responses to possible consequences in Myanmar and other areas amidst the outbreak of COVID-19. The President's office also made a public announcement last Friday to ban festivals and entertainment events, including the construction of water-splashing pandals for the Myanmar Traditional Water Festival, to prevent the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country. The government will reduce tax and interest rates so that the people will not suffer, to prevent unemployment, to continue operating factories and to have the least impacts on the economy of the country. Loans with minimum interest rate and tax exemption plans will be arranged for the most vulnerable businesses in the CMP sector, hotels and tourism and SMEs due to the COVID-19. The 2% advance tax on export items will be exempted until the end of this financial year. A fund for prevention, control and treatment of COVID-19 will be raised with public contributions, and that people are urged to make their contributions to this fund. The State Councillor said she wishes to inform the public that the government is focusing on long-term national interest while taking measured steps to meet the needs of the prevailing situation. She also said, it's a simple and clear fact that people are the key. No matter how the government adopts sound policies, public participation is pivotal to achieve success. The daily executive-level coordination meeting on COVID-19 held meeting through video conferencing on Monday. Union Minister for Health and Sports Dr. Myanmar Today said the risk of the virus spreading will decrease as the number of travelers entering from infected regions goes down. He said it is important for everyone involved in the preventive measures to be systematically networked so that the donations made to combat COVID-19 are used effectively. He said they have formed an email group linking to executive, state and regional level officials in this endeavor. The Union Minister also said public health processes are going well and hospital work needs to be further promoted. He called for all attendees to weigh in on preparations and plans related to COVID-19, including practicing treating people infected with the virus and measures in place to contain its spread. In the wake of COVID-19 shock, more than 100 cinemas across the country have been temporarily closed for a short period from 16th of March to 30th of April, according to the public relations team of Tamadat Cinema in Yangon. There are over 100 cinemas across the country, including private cinema chains Mingla Group, JCGV, Mega Ace, Paradiso, and many others. At present, Myanmar's neighboring China and Thailand are rushing to contain the spread of the virus with the confirmed cases. Similarly, the COVID-19 cases in South Korea, Italy, and Iran have surged, and the death toll is increasing. So far, Myanmar has not found any COVID-19 case yet. As precaution measures, people are asked to avoid mass gatherings and events. The Ministry of Health and Sports and other health organizations are releasing real-time information and issuing guidance on COVID-19 for community care. There are a total of 751,154 students sitting for the chemistry subject at exam centers locally and abroad on the fifth day of the matriculation exam for 2020. The number of exam centers totaled 1,978 with 15 locations overseas and 1,963 nationwide. Out of 751,154 students sitting for their exams on the fifth day, 134 are taking their exams at hospitals. Meanwhile, 15 hearing-impaired persons, 133 physically disabled persons, 64 prisoners, and 111 students from Myawaddy, Kayin State took their exams. That's all with the local news, and here's the first report on Myanmar Today. After the ballot voting for the provisions of the constitutional amendment which are applied to Section 436A, Pidangsu Luto started voting for the provisions applied to Section 436B on the 23rd day of 2nd Pidangsu Luto's 15th regular session. The provisions applied to Section 436B can be amended only by a vote of more than 75% of all the representatives of the Pidangsu Luto. DJ Henry Zin reports.
After the 4 consecutive days of voting, Pidangsu Luto concluded the voting for 55 provisions for constitutional amendment, which are applied to Section 436A. According to Section 436A, to amend the provisions applied to it, it shall be amended with the prior approval of more than 75% of all the representatives of the Pidangsu Luto, after which, in a nationwide referendum, only with the votes of more than half of those who are eligible to vote. The result of the ballot voting on the provisions for constitutional amendment, which are applied to Section 436A, is that out of 55 proposed provisions, only 2 provisions, Section 32A and B, which are to change the written term disabled person in Myanmar language, were approved. On the 23rd day of the 2nd Pidangsu Luto's 15th regular session, 630 Luto representatives casted votes on 15 provisions, which are applied to Section 436B. According to Section 436B, it is stated that provisions other than those mentioned in subsection A shall be amended only by a vote of more than 75% of all the representatives of the Pidangsu Luto.
လွတ်တော်ကိုယ်စားလှယ်များခင်ဗျာယနေ့လွတ်တော်ရဲ့အဆုံးဖြတ်ရယူတဲ့ဖွဲ့စည်းပုံအခြေခံဥပဒေကိုပြင်ဆင်သည့်ဥပဒေမူကြမ်းပြင်ဆင်ချက်ပုံမှန်ခွဲအလိုက်ထောက်ခံစန္ဒမဲ့ရရှိမှုအရေးအတွက်85ရာခိုင်နှုန်းကျော်ရမရနဲ့လွတ်တော်ရဲ့အဆုံးဖြတ်အတည်ပြုချက်ကိုကြေညာမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်
Out of 15 provisions mentioned in Phase 1 voting, none of the provisions passed to receive the required votes in favor. Generally, some of the proposed provisions are concerned with Lutos, including formation of the Bidul Luto Committee, Commission, and bodies, disqualification for the Bidul Luto representatives, convening the Bidul Luto session, formation of the Amyota Luto committees, commissions, and bodies, and convening the region or state Luto sessions. There are also provisions regarding the self-administered division and self-administered zone leading bodies and the federal laws enacted by different levels of Luto and the leading bodies of the self-administered area.
ပုံမှန်104ပုံမှန်ခွဲခခွေပြင်ဆင်မှုအတွက်ထောက်ခံစန္ဒမဲ့403မဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်ထောက်ခံစန္ဒမဲ့85ရာခိုင်နှုန်းမကျော်တဲ့အတွက်မူလအတိုင်းဖြစ်ကြောင်းကြေညာပါတယ်
Moreover, provisions under the titles of powers and functions of the President and the executive power of the Union government were also voted. All these provisions, which involve amendment and dismissal, failed to receive the required number of votes in favor.
ပုံမှန်126ပုံမှန်ခွဲကကြီးပြင်ဆင်မှုအတွက်ထောက်ခံစန္ဒမဲ့415မဲဖြစ်ပါတယ်ထောက်ခံစန္ဒမဲ့85ရာခိုင်နှုန်းမကျော်တဲ့အတွက်မူလအတိုင်းဖြစ်ကြောင်းကြေညာပါတယ်
Pidangsu Luto will continue the voting for 18 provisions, which are applied to Section 436B on its 24th day.
ဖွဲ့စည်းပုံအခြေခံဥပဒေပုံမှန်436ပုံမှန်ခွဲခခွေးမှာအကျုံးဝင်တဲ့ဆန္ဒမဲလက်မှတ်1နဲ့ဇက်လင်းပြီးပြည်ထောင်စုလွှတ်တော်ရဲ့အဆုံးဖြတ်ရယူခြင်းအစီအစဉ်ပြီးပါပြီ
This is DJ Henry Zin from MI Radio.
That's a report on Luto casting votes for provisions applied to Section 436B of the Constitutional Amendment. Well, for the next report on China's measures against imported cases, we go to Xu Qingduo, a senior journalist from China Media Group. So, Mr. Xu, as the coronavirus cases in China stabilize with strict measures and battle efforts put in place, the concern is shifted towards the imported cases as foreigners and the Chinese nationals coming home from abroad. So what are the measures being taken by China to handle the imported cases?
Hello, good morning. This is Xu Qingduo reporting from Beijing. Well, in the fight against the imported cases, the focus is mostly on the big cities, for example, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, Shenzhen. And because these cities are the areas that receive most guests from overseas. So if you look at the situation in Beijing, basically, it's getting tighter. Is getting stricter, I would say. For example, all the international arrivals, the passengers will be asked to distance to get off the plane in small groups, and then they will be asked to fill in their health situation in a card, and also have their temperatures measured. So in this procedure, it gives the authorities some general information about the health situation of the passengers arriving in Beijing. And then for those passengers who have a permanent address in Beijing, they will be asked to quarantine or isolate themselves for 14 days, basically to observe whether there will be symptoms like that, whether there will be a dry cough or low temperature, low fever. And if that's the situation, you need to report to the authorities.
Well, it's great to note that measures are in place for passengers who have a permanent address in Beijing. Then what about those passengers on business trips and they don't have the permanent address in Beijing? What are the measures designed for them?
And for those on business travels, they don't have a permanent address, say in Beijing. There are specially designated hotels for people to quarantine themselves for 14 days. And for travelers from these high-risk regions and countries like Italy, like Iran, basically they will be handled separately. There's a new area in the terminal of the international arrival to deal with the luggage and also the passenger from those areas. So in this sense, of course, this will help identify as early as possible those suspected cases, and also will make sure that those people will be healthy before they interact with the local residents.
Those indeed are effective measures, and China's measures serve a good example for other countries in the fight against the virus. After talking about the measures to curb the imported cases, let us conclude with you giving us an update on the measures implemented within China. Tell us more about that.
At the same time, of course, in Beijing, they are also asking people, the city authorities are asking people, probably to be careful, to avoid big crowds in areas usually foreigners would gather for fun, for drinks, for restaurants, etc. So I think in general, the city, the idea is like that. You don't want to miss out a single case, because if you miss out a single case, that could create a cluster of infection, and then there's new infection that will become a new challenge for the government.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Xu. Let's have a look at the currency rates now from Myanmar Central Bank and the stock exchange. $1 is at 1,413 kyats. 1 Chinese renminbi is at 201 kyats. 1 euro is at 1,585 kyats. 1 pound sterling is at 1,744 kyats. 1 Singapore dollar is at 994 kyats. 1 Malaysian ringgit is at 328 kyats. 1 Thai baht is at 44 kyats, and the Indian rupee is at 19 kyats. Gold is trading at $1,439. Silver is at $12. And Brent crude oil is at $29. On the Yangon Stock Exchange, FMI is at 11,000. MTSH is at 3,800. MCB is at 8,200. FPB went up 500 and it's at 22,500. TMH is at 2,800. Stay with us as we bring you more reports on Myanmar Today. With a motive to help deliver the news source of the professional football leagues and competition in a way more organized and accessible form, Myanmar Go launched its football news application packed with features. David Tanner has the details.
As the phone application market has been expanding in tremendous amount with the ascending usage of mobile phones, and internet has been obviously vivid. With the demand of the market of football lovers and generation of people who want to access the latest news of all sorts of football news, Myanmar Go initiated a football-oriented news application. Let's hear out more about it from U Kin Lat, marketing manager of Myanmar Go.
ဘာကြောင့်လဲဆိုလို့ရှိရင် mobile application ထုတ်ရတဲ့အဓိကရည်ရွယ်ချက်ကကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီ
As we have been doing Myanmar Go for over 15 years and have been doing through web portals, websites and SMS services, we think now is the time to leap out of the comfort zone and make something that people in Myanmar would really like to use. As our main purpose for the launch of this application is to give way more easier access to all the people in Myanmar regarding the professional football news. We think this is one of the great periods for our decision, as people in Myanmar nowadays are really familiar with the phone and application usages and are ready to use for more. Our mobile application will now be available on Android and will be on iOS soon.
ကျွန်တော် live ကိုကြည့်လို့ရတယ်ကျွန်တော်တို့အဲ့မှာ up to date ပေါ့နော်ကြည့်လို့ရတယ်ဆိုတော့အဲ့ကဏ္ဍကြီးကျွန်တော်တို့6ခုပေါ့
The application will consist of 6 major sectors such as news for La Liga, Premier League, etc. Another sector will be about predictions. There will also be video links, and lastly, but most important one, is the live score feature of the application. It will be live and a 24-hour service. We will hear out more about why is this kind of application such a demand in Myanmar's market from U Kin Lat as well.
အဓိကကတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီဘောလုံးလောကထဲမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီဘောလုံးပေါ့နော်ဘောလုံးဒီသတင်းလောကထဲမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ကဒီ
In Myanmar, even though there are many football audience, the application to track all the news are only a few. I don't mean there is none of those kinds of applications. Myanmar Go would like to support the market and build up more for the local audience. The application will be more focused on Series A, La Liga, Premier League, Champion League as the market demands. And for the prediction part of our application, we will only be predicting about the goal scores. In the future, we'll be adding more features to the application, for instance, providing live watching services and so on.
ဒီလုပ်ဖို့ရှိပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ဟိုမျိုးစုံပေါ့နော် live လွှင့်တဲ့ကိစ္စမျိုးတို့ဗာမျိုးတွေအစားအကုန်လုံးရည်ရွယ်မှာရှိပါတယ်
As social media has been thriving lately as well, do we really need an application for such features? This will be answered by Ko Kaunta, assistant editor of Myanmar Go.
အခုဆိုရင်တော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီဒုမှုကွန်
As everyone knows, football news has been scattering all over the internet. People go to their favorite pages and search for their need. As the news resources are scattered, it is really hard to access for most of the people. And that is why Myanmar Go would like to solve that problem by collecting the news source from famous websites and pages as a reference and deliver it in a simple way to the audiences. The news will be updated 24/7 and be updated real time as well.
အဲ့တဲ့ပွဲပြီးတဲ့တွေပါလေဆိုရင်ချက်ချင်းလုံးဝပွဲပြီးရတဲ့ဝင်ကြည့်လို့ရပါတယ်
Is publishing an application trend? Is it a must for everyone to use application? Ko Kaunta also stated his perspective.
နောက်ပိုင်းကတော့ခုနောက်ပိုင်းကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာဆို
These days in Myanmar, application has been published by most of the news media and other mediums. As everyone knows, they can get almost everything out from their phone. Applications become the gateway of it. People tend to check their phones first as soon as they wake up and hunger for the news in the world and what is happening around the world. Myanmar Go would like to be on the trend and help football audiences like us to be more accessible to the news they would like to access.
အဲ့တော့ဒီ digital အပေါ်မှာပဲလူတွေကတဖြည်းဖြည်းနဲ့ရောက်လာကြပြီပေါ့နော်
Reporter David Tanner reporting from Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on Myanmar Go launching its football news application. Well, let's check out the last report before we move on to international news. Yangon stock market sees changes in early 2020 with the stock market recovering after a steady drop late last year. YSX expects major changes and progress over the coming months. One of the welcomed changes is the 6th listed company, which will be officiated on 20th of March.
To boost trading, the Yangon Stock Exchange has doubled its stock trade matching times from 2 to 4 per day. Now it is scheduled to increase to 7 times per day. Data shows that in February this year, 338,119 shares worth of 2.069 billion Jets were traded on the exchange. Yangon Stock Exchange Executive Senior Manager explained the changes in number of matching times on the exchange.
Before, we used to have 4 matching times per day, and now we have increased the matching times to 7. So with the increasing in the number of matching times, the market activity will be more active. So the matching time will go every half an hour.
As the 6th listed company on Yangon Stock Exchange, the logistics company, the Everflow River Group, has been given the green light to get listed. The listing will be conducted in accordance with the Section 41C of the Securities Exchange Law and Section 7 and 8 of the Securities Listing Business Regulations. It is noted that the base price of EFR will be announced on the website on 19th March, which is 1 business day prior to the listing date, as per a notice from the Yangon Stock Exchange.
EFR will meet and discuss with the Security House on coming 20th of March, and it will be officially listed as on the exchange. As per the company's profile, EFR is a fully integrated logistics service provider. There are 7 subsidiaries, 1 affiliate, and 2 project companies operating under the management of the EFR group of companies. EFR is an investment holding company that owns shares in its business units and companies that are engaged in a number of diverse businesses. Its core businesses are in the logistics industry. EFR has also invested in companies that are engaged in the logistics infrastructure development.
EFR has generated 19 million shares with the investment of 13.6 billion Jets. In 2016, shares of only 3 companies were traded on the Yangon Stock Exchange. They are First Myanmar Investment, Myanmar Dilwa Azizat Holdings, and Myanmar Citizens Bank. 1 more public company, First Private Bank, was listed on the exchange in 2017. In 2018, TMH Telecom Public Company Limited debuted on the exchange. More than 2.5 million shares of 3 listed companies were traded on the Yangon Stock Exchange in 2016, and their value was estimated at 70 billion Jets. In 2017, despite an increase in the stock trading volume to 2.6 million shares, the trade value was only 22 billion Jets. In 2018, 2.3 million shares of 5 companies worth of 11.5 billion Jets were traded on the exchange. A total of 2.4 million shares worth of 13.39 billion Jets were traded on the exchange in 2019, which is a significant increase compared to the previous year, according to the annual report released by the exchange.
When we compare the last 2 months of 2019 and the first 2 months of 2020, the trading in early 2020 is better than in late 2019. Trading volume has increased, and another 1 or 2 companies are planning to get listed on the exchange into the year.
It has held promotional events to attract new investors and encourage existing investors to trade more actively. The stock exchange has also sought the government's support to get more public companies to participate in the stock market and help more institutional investors, such as financing companies, investment banks, and insurance companies, to emerge. This is Agajo reporting for Myanmar International Radio.
That's a report on the Yangon Stock Exchange increased daily matching times to 7. Well, that's all we have for today's reports. Let's move on to international news here on Myanmar Today. Should China's COVID-19 recovery be doubted? Whether it's a V or U-shaped, residual confidence in large Chinese companies will inject impetus into the future economy.
While scientists and doctors fight on the front lines combating COVID-19, economists are debating what impact the outbreak will have on both the Chinese and global economies. It's without question economically disruptive, but can opportunities be found amid the crisis?
The coronavirus may become the biggest threat to global economy.
It is both a demand shock and a supply shock. It affects trade and services.
The aggressive measures taken by the Chinese government are no doubt helping to contain the virus, but with millions quarantined, production has grinded to a halt in many industries. Some fear most for small and medium-sized companies, which have the smallest capacity for enduring a shutdown. Large companies are often assumed to be resilient enough to weather the storm, but is that the case? According to a recent survey by the School of Economics and Management at Tsinghua University, the answers are bittersweet. All the respondents are CEOs or founders of China's medium and large companies. Almost 60% of them believe the outbreak is a serious blow to their companies, mainly due to restrictions on operations and a decrease in orders. More than one-third of the respondents predict a 10 to 20% drop in yearly revenues. Still, over 70% of respondents say their cash flow can last at least 3 to 6 months. At this time, small and medium-sized enterprises urgently need more cash flow to pay rent and salaries. For large companies, though, the issue is liquidity. The debt burden is tight, and they have yet to resume operations to make profits. Nearly 40% of the executives surveyed say they will need at least a month after restarting production to return to pre-outbreak levels. Is the cash flow the central bank is pumping into the market what they need the most right now? Nearly 70% of respondents say they are hoping to get preferential policies in taxes, and 37% are expecting interest rate cuts. But this does not mean hope is lost. More than half of the companies aim to stick to their annual spending plans. That indicates that they still have confidence in China's economy after the outbreak, and that's not limited to Chinese companies.
But in the long run, it doesn't change any of the fundamental factors and the attractiveness and the growth opportunity of the Chinese economy, I think so.
The outbreak is likely to be a wake-up call for many companies. Only 20% of respondents say they will still operate as before on a long-term basis. As offline services suffer, Chinese people are increasingly living an online life. More than half of the companies interviewed are planning to digitize their business, and more than one-third are expanding investments to dig new business opportunities. In Chinese, crisis is translated as weiji, a dangerous opportunity. This temporary economic hit might, in turn, become a window for some enterprises to rebalance their business plans. Starbucks used the opportunity of the 2008 financial crisis to optimize its operations strategy. The adjustment cut its costs by as much as $400 million and helped the company pick up in the next year. Large companies serve as a key stabilizer of the Chinese economy. They tend to be the frontrunners in the process of industry upgrade. When riding on such a storm, they are most likely to spot the lighthouse. With a vision to change, some of them are bound to rise stronger from this disruption. So, should one doubt China's recovery from the outbreak? Whether it's a V-shape or U-shape, one should be certain that the residual confidence of these large companies will inject more impetus into the future economy.
There's been confusion among people if they should wear a face mask or not in the midst of the coronavirus outbreak. If you are in America, here are some tips on how to choose and wear a face mask properly. For ordinary residents, an N95 mask can filter most of the virus, but don't choose a mask with exhalation valves. The valves will allow in unfiltered air. If you might be exposed to oil, look for an R or P designated mask, because the letter N stands for not resistant to oil, while the P stands for oil-proof or strongly resistant, and the R stands for somewhat oil resistant. If you can't get N95 masks, ordinary ones also help. Deputy Director General of the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Feng Zijian, said, for the general public, changing a new mask after each use is unnecessary. The guideline released by the National Health Commission regarding the prevention of the novel coronavirus recently suggests the public wear medical, surgical, or N95 masks when going out to public places or taking public transportation. It's important not to spread toxic, but wear a mask. In other news, Ireland is to ban menthol cigarettes and rolling tobacco, including less ordinary cigarettes, such as skinny cigarettes, from 20th of May. Click Jewel cigarettes, which change flavor from normal to menthol, are also included in the ban. This is part of the 4-year phasing-out period of the European Union's Tobacco Product Directive, which came into force in 2014 and became applicable in all EU countries on 20th of May 2016. 10 packs of cigarettes and smaller packs of rolling cigarettes are already banned across Europe, as well as tobacco advertising and point-of-sale displays. Branding has also been outlawed, which means that tobacco products can only be sold in plain packaging with prominent health warnings. And that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I'm Henry Zin. Have a great day, everyone, and remember to wash your hands. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.